Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. Is that Matt?
Hey, Will.
Hey, bud.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Braxton Raruda.
There goes Braxton.
And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Former St. Jon Stinchcomb in about 15 minutes. He was on the call for Saints Jags Saturday afternoon in the Dome. Brooks Austin, maybe the most popular guest we had on at SEC Media Days, a.k.a. the film guy. He dropped a video last week, his film study of Sam Levitt. He'll be with us a little more than an hour from right now to break it all down. But let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Football Tigers were back on the practice field Monday out at the McClendon practice facility. Saturday was a big day for LSU. They had a scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. Lane Kiffin told us Monday it was 170 plays. So they had a long workout, more than 2 hours in Tiger Stadium on Saturday. So they had the day off on Sunday. Well, I guess there's no such thing actually as a day off in camp, but they weren't on the field Sunday. We'll put it to you that way. So they were back on the field Monday morning, full pads, in the heat, full squad workout. And maybe most notable were some of the absences. Ed Ogeron was not in attendance. I did ask Lane Kiffin about Coach O after practice, and he gave a very brief answer. Can you play this from his number 3?
Yeah, he wasn't feeling real well. We sent him home, and so we expect him to be back soon. Okay,
that's great news. For what it's worth, we did report over at LouisianaSports.net that Coach O was not at the scrimmage Saturday either. So whatever the not feeling well is, a multi-day thing here. But hopefully Coach O's back out there tomorrow night. We'll see what all goes on there. But again, it's a long workout Saturday in Tiger Stadium. So on top of Coach O not being there, Harlem Berry, Malik Blockton, Jordan Ross, J.D. LaFleur, all were not there as well. I did ask Lane Knight. He's very clear. He's not going to talk about injuries. But I didn't ask the question about injuries. I just said, those guys weren't there. Can you give us an update on those guys? This is what he said.
No, they both should be fine.
He is just not super keen on giving any type of tidbit there. But for what it's worth, so if we get access to practice, and I go to practice, and Harlem Berry and Jordan Ross and Coach O aren't there, I'm going to ask the coach why those guys aren't there. And he doesn't have to answer it. He can be as dismissive or secretive as he wants or as forthcoming as he wants. But it's my job to go ask the question. So I had no problem asking the questions. So anyway, but here's hoping, as an aside there, I did have many conversations after the scrimmage on Saturday and Sunday with people who were there, and it seems like they came through it very healthy, which is a great thing. I mean, if you looked around the SEC this weekend, South Carolina lost 2 receivers for the season. Bama had a couple of injuries. Tennessee lost a starting safety for the season. I mean, or for at least half the season. I mean, those are the things you want to avoid in camp, and it looks like LSU did, coming out of the scrimmage, avoid all that. And look, you go have 170 play scrimmage and some guys are bumped and bruised and nicked and sprained and strained or whatever. Yeah, give them some time. So LSU practiced Monday morning and they'll be back on the field Tuesday evening. So that'll be 72 hours from the scrimmage. So that'll actually be, and we get our customary 2-3 periods. So that'll be a good gauge to see if these guys are back then. Some other good news. Jace Brown and Winnie Watkins, who were in gold no-contact jerseys last week, were in their white offensive uniforms. If you're not familiar, the offense wears white, defense wears purple. The quarterbacks and players that are injured wear the gold no-contact jerseys. So Jace Brown, Winnie Watkins back out there in white. That was great. Jabari Mack and Trey'Dez Green continued wearing gold. Lane did say after practice today that they kind of gave Trey'Dez the day off. Now, he was out there, and so in the pitch and catch portion that we got to see, he was running routes. But Lane effectively said, like, when they went team, Trey'Dez just sat out. They're like, go sit down. So I think one thing that is very clear about what Lane Kiffin is doing and how they're managing reps, I've come to realize this about Lane. Like, everything he does is intentional. There's nothing that is by mistake or happenstance or that is random. Like, everything has some thought behind it, which is really exciting. Even to the point where if there's a day where you can steal 30 reps and you're counting every rep a player gets, and the day-night thing gives you more recovery time, and so, like, if you're Trey'Dez and you didn't do any team stuff on Monday after the scrimmage, and then you don't really go again until Tuesday evening. You understand? Like, I think all of that is very calculated. Because Hunt and I usually divide and conquer at practice. He'll go watch offense, I'll watch defense. Because Hunt wasn't there today, I just kind of sat in the middle of the four fields, like where the cross meets of the four fields, so I could just sort of see everything as best I could. There wasn't a lot to see defensively except for taking attendance, because they didn't even do the 11-man pursuit drill. So it was just all, hitting bags and stuff like that. The offensive line, they were doing sleds and individual work. Nothing really to report on the offensive line. So I spent the bulk of my time watching the quarterbacks and receivers. It was interesting because it was a pretty uneven day for Sam Leavitt today. For example, they first started throwing the ball to the tight ends, and he threw the first two. Each quarterback threw two passes to the tight ends. So he threw to Trey'Dez and then to Zach Grace, the transfer from Oregon, and he missed both of them. When you're throwing against air and there's no defensive back, there's no pass rush, there's no crowd, there are no variables to interrupt your throw. Like, you never want to see a ball hit the ground. And so I think, like, the ball hit the ground too much for my liking. Now, the other part that's worth mentioning, okay? We get to watch, like, 12 to 15 minutes, all right? They probably practiced for 2 hours. We didn't get to see any 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. So it's quite possible that Sam Leavitt went out there and just crushed it today, but we didn't get to see any of that. All I can do is tell you what I saw with my eyes. So it was not great at the beginning. He missed the two throws to the tight end. They ran a couple of sideline routes. He overthrew Trey Wilson. He underthrew Winnie Watkins, a couple of incomplete passes. And then they went from the 30 in. So they were throwing slant routes from the 30, and then they went to the 10-yard line and were throwing passes into the end zone. Well, he hit his next 6. So he like, no more hit the ground from that point on. He completed every pass the remainder of the practice. But so it was a little uneven. It started not great. It finished really strong. Husan Longstreet, I charted 10 of his throws, and he completed all of them. One thing that's also pretty obvious is that the reps are starting to be pared down. Like, Sam Leavitt's getting all of his reps. Husan Longstreet's getting the bulk of what's left, and then Landon Clark gets a rep here or there. Like, when they threw to the tight ends, they each got 2 reps. For the rest of the period, as I was watching them and charting throws, they moved down the field, I charted 1 more rep from Landon. So 3 reps from Landon Clark in the 12 minutes that we got to see. So it's obvious, right? Like, they're paring down the reps at this point to make sure the guys that are going to play are getting the majority of the reps and the lion's share of those reps. So that was kind of it. As we were walking out, Lane Kiffin, Ever the Troll, they always blare music during practice. They were playing Rocky Top, blaring Rocky Top. The lyrical version as well, not the Tennessee band, like the actual song. And LSU, of course, plays in Tennessee this year for the first time since 2017. It'll be Lane Kiffin's first trip back to Knoxville with LSU, his second trip back. Of course, he took Ole Miss there a few years ago, notably with the mustard and ketchup bottles and the golf balls being thrown on the field. And then, so they're playing Rocky Top. And then also there were, this is pretty common, there are always NFL scouts at practices. So I saw Saints, Niners, Giants, Packers, Raiders, Cardinals, Texans out at practice today watching LSU. So a good day of work for the Tigers with what little we got to see. A little bit of a recovery day yesterday, full padded practice today. They'll practice Tuesday evening out on the Ponderosa, and of course, whatever we see out there, we'll report to you. Okay, it is after further review. Show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Y'all, football season's upon us. Saints had their first preseason game. LSU steamrolling toward the opener against Clemson on September the 5th. You're going to be watching football. Make sure you drink easy and toast with your friends with the great taste of Bud Light, available in the officially licensed LSU cans and aluminum bottles and the officially licensed Saints cans as well. So make sure you pick up Bud Light at great local retailers and drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers, and the official beer of your New Orleans Saints. Speaking of your New Orleans Saints, Houdat's opened up preseason on Saturday in the Dome. Jon Stinchcomb was on the TV call. He'll join us next on AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. Sister-in-law actually sent me a text on Sunday and said, hey, who's the AC company you always talk about? Our AC's out, and it's unbearable, and we have to get it fixed. So River City's 1 Hour Air. So I tell you all the time, it doesn't matter if it's nights, holidays, weekends. They'll always come out nights, holidays, and weekends. So if your AC goes out on a Saturday or a Sunday and it's a heat index of 110, you don't have to sit in a hot house for the rest of the weekend until someone can come see you on Monday. Just call River City's 1 Hour Air. Big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. Spell it out, O-N-E, 1hourbr.com for River City's 1 Hour Air. And remember, when there are technicians on the way, you're going to call, a text, and an email alerting you the text on the way with name, photo, and reviews of that technician. It's River City's 1 Hour Air.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Fun game. I think it was a fun battle with those guys. Love the way our guys competed. When you add what we did this last few days with Jacksonville from a joint practice to this preseason game, I felt like we had some really good work, and so feel like we got some good stuff out of this, and our guys are going to be able to grow and learn from it.
Kellen Moore, after the Saints preseason opener against Jacksonville, the good guys lost 24-20. They gave up 18 unanswered, but there was a lot of good from Saturday's preseason game. Jon Stinchcomb was on the call. He's good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Hey, John, thanks as always, man. How are you?
I'm great. Glad we're watching real football now.
Right. Did you like joint practices?
It depends on who they were against. When we went up to Cincinnati and practiced against the Bengals, those were all, I thought, very productive practices, and they also practiced at a different tempo that was welcomed, and it was much cooler. Now, we went out to Houston, and they just turned into barroom brawls almost instantly, so those weren't quite as enjoyable.
Why did I think the Saints and Jags behaved themselves, it seemed like, but why do those joint practices always seem to end up in fights?
Well, I think it's a little bit of machismo. You get out there, and first off, practice is always a little bit chippy just because that's the nature of the beast, but you don't give an opponent the benefit of the doubt. So if you're in the middle of a drill and one of your teammates gets his hands high, you let them know about it. If it's somebody that you don't know and you don't share a locker room and they do the exact same thing, then it escalates a little bit quicker.
Got it. Okay. Look, I think Saturday we'd agree there was a lot to like, especially from jump. I'm curious, John, how many? Let's start here. How many spots on the 53 would you say, like, realistically are up for grabs? Like, is that something guys talk about in the locker room?
Yes, and I think less talk and more awareness. And this year, obviously, the situation is better than it was a year ago. You've got a lot more answers, especially across the ones, than what you had heading into that 25 season. So you're looking more at depth and situational play rather than who's our starters in those spaces. I think the Saints have done a great job of adding some valued free agents in positions of need. And I think so far it's been a positive indicator as to how they've done in the draft, at least addressing some other areas that they could have supplemented. So I think there is awareness. You look at the number of guys that didn't play in preseason game number one, and it was a much longer list than I was anticipating, and I think that's probably a message to that team of there are some folks that have fairly secure spots already.
Okay, let me ask you about a guy who the stats are obvious from Saturday. Like Mike Hellman comes up with a couple of sacks, TFL. Like he's been the talk of camp defensively as far as the UDFAs. What, like the stats are obvious, but what is impressive to you about him, John?
Well, obviously his effectiveness. We actually mentioned him the play before he gets a sack where he dropped into coverage, and that's not going to be his forte. I mean, he needs to be an edge rusher, setting the edge. I thought he was as good against the run as he was in the pass, and he came away with 2 sacks. So when you're a player like that, and you talk about a difficult place to make a roster, look at the number of players in front of them that didn't even dress. That includes obviously Chase Young and Cam, who's coming off some hamstring stuff, but Grando and Anthony and Tyree now. So that is going to be a challenging place to kind of make your mark, and he made the most of that opportunity, which is all you can ask for some of these guys that were able to get out there and play. You're trying to be memorable in a positive way, and Hellman certainly did that.
Was there anybody else defensively that you thought did that?
Well, Jaden Price was another guy. I mean, just that was not – if you're just drawing X's and O's, I thought it was a really heady play, him understanding the situation and where they were going to go with the ball, of him sagging into a place where he could make a play and make an interception right there. I thought Emerson helped himself. I mean, he showed up pretty consistently. I thought Nelson on the other side of Hellman did well. I went back and watched some of the film, and Kristen Miller I thought was really good against the run. So there were some spots, especially defensively, where you're going, okay, you've got my attention.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock or attention you pay to Pro Football Focus, but you just mentioned 3 of the 4 highest-rated players from the game with Price, Emerson, and Miller. So sometimes the stats do match the eye test. And you side. Are you not a PFF guy?
Well, no, I don't need them to tell me how a player played. I'd rather trust my own eyes.
Sure. So it's just an interesting gauge sometimes, like to see. Like I always say, it's not the metric, it's just a metric. It's just something to consider, and it's interesting sometimes whenever it does match up with the eye test, or if it aligns or doesn't align, or whatever the case may be. Jon Stinchcomb is with us. What do you think about the backup quarterback battle? Where I don't know, John. I mean, you would know better than I, but it seems like Rattler had a stranglehold on it, but very clearly Zach Wilson played better on Saturday. What does all that mean for the backup quarterback race?
Well, I think it means that the coaches have a bigger pool of data to pull from than we do. And based on the limited exposure that we have, which is one preseason game, I think pretty clearly Zach Wilson made the most of his opportunities. And you're excited that he's a super talented guy. You're talking about a previous second pick in the draft caliber talent. So if he were to be able to get it all together and have the opportunity to develop and maximize that potential, I don't know if there's a player out there with a higher ceiling with lower expectations. So I think there's real opportunity for him. And with that said, everything that I've heard about Saints training camp so far has been singing the praises of Rattler and the fact that he's managed all the situations thrown at him, especially the joint practice in Jacksonville include that. So, we have a smaller sample of data than what the coaches are going to use to evaluate these players. But, you can't ignore the fact that Zach went out and had himself a day.
He and Bub Means have had a great connection actually all throughout camp so far, and it carried over into the game. Bub Means had 4 catches for 77 yards. John, do you think there's room for a 6th receiver on the roster?
That's a great question. I think that the seasons are long, and if anything, you have to have 6-7 guys specifically at that position that you can trust and you can rotate in. I don't know who they can stash on practice squad, but we've seen it year in and year out where guys may not make that initial 53, but they certainly factor into the equation down the road. And when you invest 3 draft picks in one specific position group, it makes things a little bit harder. But there was a number of vets or familiar names to the Saints organization, some guys that have been around a year and some 2 that I thought helped themselves and had a good day and maximized that opportunity that they were given.
I got to ask you about your position group. Although, John, I don't know what spots are up for grabs. I mean, it seems like first time in forever, we know what the offensive line is going to look like because of all the investment they've made. Anybody catch your eye Saturday?
Well, I got to notice a little bit of Jeremiah Wright just because so much has been made of his physicality and his hands. And then, obviously Torricelli Simpkins had that one play that he got beat fairly quick and gets pressure on the quarterback. And you're aware of those things. But I think that's you're looking at depth, and with Radens going down, that number 6 offensive lineman spot's up for grabs. And you're confident in that starting 5, but you look at historically, Saints have kind of struggled keeping that same 5 available for an entire season. So you're going to need number 6, 7, and potentially 8 ready to go and able to contribute. I think there's opportunity there. I'm not sure that they, I think that's written in pencil right now as to what that looks like on who you carry and where they plug in. And I think that's probably why it seemed very timely that Ruiz was getting some center work, because potentially if it's you feel more comfortable with your 6 playing guard, you could bump Ruiz to center, and rather than just having number 6 fill in, whether it was guard or center that goes down.
Yeah. John, are you going to be out in L.A. for the game against the Rams?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That way.
Awesome. So this coming up Saturday, of course, it'll be Saints-Rams. It's a 3 o'clock afternoon, Central Time afternoon kick there from SoFi. We'll be locked into it. John, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much for making a few minutes for us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yep, it's our pleasure. Former Saint Jon Stinchcomb, Super Bowl champion. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Hancock Whitney Bank, the official banking partner of the New Orleans Saints and the official banking partner of the LSU Tigers. Love my relationship with Hancock Whitney Bank. I've mentioned it pretty much every day that they have been my bank for as long as I've had a checking account. And if you're interested, you can get up to $600 after opening freestyle checking and freestyle savings accounts and meeting requirements. Just go to HancockWhitney.com/Matt to get started. My name, HancockWhitney.com/MATT, HancockWhitney.com/Matt. Minimum deposit, account opening balance, and other requirements apply. You can learn more at HancockWhitney.com. Member FDIC. They've been committed to the Gulf Coast and Gulf South communities for 125 years. Y'all named one of America's best banks by Forbes each of the last 5 years. It's Hancock Whitney Bank. Remember, you can use the great mobile app, and you can be a card-carrying member of the Who Dat Nation or of Tiger Nation for the Saints and LSU officially licensed cards. You can check them out at HancockWhitney.com/Matt, HancockWhitney.com/MATT. All right, y'all, rolling along here. Glad you're hanging out with us on this Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows, proud partner of LSU Athletics. Well, now I got a break, go around the SEC. We opened the show with a little tidbit on LSU's practice today. And one of the things we mentioned was how it seems like LSU came out of the scrimmage on Saturday avoiding any major injury, which is awesome. And that's great news because, man, you look around the conference and there are plenty of examples of people and teams that did not avoid those major injuries. We'll talk about that a bit as we go around the SEC. And the preseason AP Top 25 is out. I'll tell you a few takeaways when we continue. Stick with us here. It's AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown. The Renaissance Baton Rouge is gorgeous, and it is the best place in Baton Rouge to host an event. If you've got a fundraiser, if you've got an awards banquet, maybe you've got a wedding reception. Convenience, location, amenities, check, check, check. Renaissance Baton Rouge checks all those boxes. Allison Crump, she's the event coordinator at Renaissance and at Watermark. So if you're interested in hosting an event, call over to Renaissance or to Watermark and ask for Allison. But look, Renaissance is right there on Bluebonnet near I-10. It's across the street from Perkins Row and Mall of Louisiana, so super convenient access to restaurants and to, dining and shopping and so many awesome things in that area. But then, of course, they've got so much meeting space, up to 500 people in the grand ballroom and anything in between. It's right there on Bluebonnet. Check them out today. It's Renaissance Baton Rouge. By our friends over at Insurance Network of Louisiana, better coverage for less money. It's something that I say literally every day and have for years. Process is so easy when you call Insurance Network of Louisiana. I can't imagine a reason not to call, because what they do is they use their relationships, right? And they've got relationships with dozens of the top-rated insurance companies in the world, and they shop to find you better coverage for less money. You may have a great relationship with your current insurance provider, but if they work for State Farm or Allstate or Liberty Mutual, your local agent can only get you rates from that company. When you call Insurance Network of Louisiana, they shop dozens of companies, so you save. Better coverage for less money. Home, auto, business insurance, if it's your commercial auto, if it's workers' comp, whatever type of insurance you're carrying on your business, better coverage for less money. 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
All right, rolling along here on a Monday edition of AFR, presented by Relief Windows. The AP Top 25 is out. LSU preseason number 11. Lane Kiffin, when he met with reporters, was asked what he thought about being ranked 11th in the preseason AP Top 25. This is what Kiffin had to say.
I don't think anything of it, and that's just not coach speak. I mean, I've been parts of where we've been low a year ago and finished really high, and where we've been really high and finished really low. So, now more than ever, it really shouldn't mean anything. I mean, we don't know as coaches, let alone media or coaches know other teams, because we barely know our own team how we'll play, because you have so many new players. There's no way you could figure it out, and I haven't studied it because there's no reason to, but I bet you analytics from the last 2 years of polls and where people have finished compared to where they start probably have been a long ways off compared to years ago, my guess.
By the way, there is a little research out there. Had tipped to Brett McMurphy from On 3. So in 2025, just 1 year ago, this is the list of teams that started in the top 25 and finished last year unranked. Not like started in the top 10, finished outside of the top 10. This is the list of teams that started the season ranked and finished the season unranked. Number 2, Penn State. Number 4, Clemson. Number 9, LSU. Number 11, Arizona State. Number 12, Illinois. Number 13, South Carolina. Number 15, Florida. Number 16, SMU. Number 17, Kansas State. Number 22, Iowa State. Number 24, Tennessee. And number 25, Boise State. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, damn near half of the preseason top 25 finished the season unranked. There has never, in the history of this sport, and this is not hyperbole, literally, there's never been more ambiguity going into seasons than now because of the roster turnover. You used to be able to just guess and default to teams like Ohio State and Alabama or LSU and Penn State because you just had years on top of years on top of years on top of years of great recruiting. Now, every year you lose a third of your roster. Every year you lose a third of your roster. So if you're, and at places like LSU this year, it's even more. So if you're turning over that much, like, I'll give you an extreme example, but Fernando Mendoza comes from Cal to Indiana, wins the national championship and the Heisman Trophy. Like, nobody predicted. I don't even know if Fernando Mendoza had freaking odds last year in the preseason to win the Heisman. But all of that has created so much, it's made it so much more difficult to try to make educated predictions. Even things like, look, the blue chip ratio last year got blown up. mean, Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio last year got eviscerated, finally, because of Indiana. Like, it's just, the best, I'll give you, Ty Benefield. We're all talking about Ty Benefield being a potential All-American safety. He was a 3-star coming out of high school. He wouldn't count toward LSU's blue chip ratio, which is an absurdity beyond measure. He was all Mountain West. He's a 6'3", 220-pound wrecking ball at safety. He looks awesome. But you're telling me, according to that, you wouldn't get credit for it. So all these metrics just have not caught up with how to judge and prognosticate in college football right now. So preseason top 25 is out. It's, of course, going to be so wrong. LSU is number 11 in the preseason top 25. Ohio State and Oregon 1-2 in the preseason ranking, and so we'll keep an eye on it as they move throughout. But all it does is just give you a number next to the teams for the opening weekend of college football games. But I've never actually liked the fact that we do a preseason poll because I think it does create inherent bias. The flip side that I'll say is that it mattered way more when the poll was used as part of the BCS rankings. The fact that the polls quite literally are not used for anything anymore makes this just an irrelevant exercise and something that if you want to pay attention to, it can be fun to do, but it really just doesn't matter for anything except the little number on the TV screen when they tee it up and kick it off on September the 5th. So Tigers will be 11 whenever they take on Clemson in the opener on September 5th. If you're wondering, as we look at the rest of the preseason top 25, Clemson is down near the bottom of the preseason top 25. Actually, forgive me, Clemson's unranked. My apologies. I thought they were somewhere near the bottom, but Clemson unranked in the preseason top 25. So it'll be number 11 LSU against unranked Clemson in Tiger Stadium. Okay, it's after further review. We're glad you're with us. We are brought to you by FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU athletics. FMOLhealth.org/LSU. That's where you can go to learn more. Of course, the LSU athletes trust the Lake. The LSU Student Health Center, the Lake has the contract there. And then everyday champions like you and me for our daily health care. If it's pediatrics, if it's cancer, if it's heart, stroke, all the specialties, you can get world-class care right here at home. Also, big hat tip, y'all. Capital Gala was this weekend. It's Capital Gala Best Dress, which benefits the Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Institute. One of my favorite events annually in Baton Rouge. It's so much fun. It's a great opportunity just to dress to the nines and eat good food and have good drinks and celebrate with good people and raise money for an awesome cause. And so it was great to do that. Waiting on a final tally, but it's annually one of, if not the best fundraiser in Baton Rouge, and all benefiting FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Institute. So it was great to be part of that this weekend. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU together, we roar. Okay, we do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
So we mentioned LSU staying healthy during their scrimmage. Great news because there were injuries throughout the conference this weekend. Alabama running back A.K. Deere expected to miss about 6 weeks with an ankle injury that he suffered in a preseason scrimmage. Kalen DeBoer said that the injury was in the first 2 scrimmages and then would be evaluated. The test revealed the severity of the injury. So having a nice scrimmage, but then the ankle injury will keep him out for roughly half the season.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
Shane Beamer's squad has lost not one but 2 pass catchers to season-ending lower body injuries. Jaden Sellers, that's the younger brother of Lenora Sellers, by the way, and transfer Jaden Gibson both suffered injuries last week in practice. They will miss the season. Sellers impressed as a true freshman a year ago with over 300 yards in 7 games. Gibson missed the last 2 seasons at Oklahoma with injuries, and now he'll miss this season as well.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Another injury. Starting safety Edris Farouk suffered a torn patella tendon in his right knee Friday. He will miss the entire season for Tennessee. He's a junior from Maryland, was expected to be one of the leaders in Jim Knowles' defense. Left the practice field actually in an ambulance for the UT Medical Center. Started all 13 games for Tennessee last year, was second in the SEC in forced fumbles, and was second on the team in interceptions and tackles. That is a big, big loss there for the Vols.
Texas A&M!
Aggies keep hot on the recruiting trail. They got one of the top quarterbacks for 2028 over the weekend when Donald Tabron II committed to Texas A&M. 6'4", 190 pounds. He's out of Detroit. He's the number 2 quarterback according to ESPN for the class of 2028. Head offers from LSU, Oregon, and others.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
And a quick basketball note, forward Isaiah Sealy was arrested in Fayetteville. Multiple charges placed on the second-year player, including criminal trespassing, a minor in possession, and possession of a controlled substance. He has been released on bond. No comment yet from John Calipari. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Monday shows, as always, brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows, doors, siding. Oh, yeah. They do shutters, too. And shades. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Friday, y'all, we spent the day, the entirety of the show. It was a 3-hour tribute to the late Skip Bertman. And that was the right thing to do. We could have done 3 days just straight. That was a tribute to Skip Bertman. But one of the things we didn't get a chance to get to on Friday that I want to circle back to here when we return is Blake Baker meeting with reporters on Friday, because we're only going to get to talk to Blake this one time in fall camp. And then this Friday, by the way, Charlie Weiss will meet with reporters. Lane Kiffin does not let assistant coaches meet with the media. So this was it for us to talk to Blake Baker. So I do, when we'll break, we'll come back, and I want to circle back to some of the things, the high points that I hit on that I thought were interesting from Blake Baker. We'll do that. By the way, we also shared this, was able to get this information from the Bertman family on Sunday evening. The service, the public memorial for Skip, is going to happen on Tuesday, August 25th, so a week from tomorrow, at the PMAC. There'll be a private event for the Bertman family and then former players, coaches, and staff from 4:30 to 6:30. And then the event itself, the public memorial, will happen in the PMAC starting at 7 p.m. Doors are going to open approximately 6 p.m., and they are expecting a crowd. But they wanted to get this information out. So please help spread the word, because there's just a lot of people that are going to be flying in. And, it's a Tuesday night. And so they wanted to make sure they have plenty of notice for people to plan accordingly. So, again, a week from tomorrow, the public memorial for Skip is going to happen at 7 p.m. at the PMAC, with the doors opening at 6. All right, it's After Further Review. We'll let you hear from Blake Baker next on AFR.
After Further Review.
If you want to feel your best, our friends over at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness can help. Hey, Scone, I thought they were an ED clinic. Yes, they have ED treatments. So if you have ED, they can help. And it's not just a little blue pill. They got a lot of different things, a lot of different treatments that will certainly and surely work to help you if you do have ED. But it's so much more. It's about a holistic approach to feeling your best, youngest, most vital self. Y'all, you get one life to live. And there ain't no sense in waking up every day being sick and tired of being sick and tired. If you want to wake up, let your feet hit the ground, boom, and you are ready to go attack the day with tons of energy, waking energy, mental clarity. You want to talk about the motivation to get in the gym. When you get in the gym, you can burn fat and build muscle and have gains. You want to feel your best, libido, everything. Maybe it's hormone replacement therapy. Maybe it's peptides. But it starts with that call to Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Check them out at yourgoodwood.com. Did you know there's a Brock on every block? With 10 locations to serve you in Baton Rouge, Gonzales, Walker, Hammond, Zachary, and Brewley, home to 38 top physicians, finding the right care is easy. Learn more at brortho.com.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And we do shutters too.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. LSU did scrimmage in Tiger Stadium on Saturday. There was no media access, but I was able to have a lot of conversations. I'll give you a few notes on that coming up in about 13 minutes from right now. I do want to get to my Saints-Jags takeaway from the preseason game. We'll get to that next hour, too. Friday, Blake Baker met with reporters, and I'm certain over the remainder of fall camp we'll have plenty of opportunity to dissect a lot of what Blake had to say. It'll be the only opportunity we have here during camp, during the season, to speak to Blake. But there's a few things in particular that he was asked, talked about, that I thought were relevant. One is really the two spots on defense where they're kind of a little concerned about depth. And I think at all three levels, they have elite level frontline starters. We've talked about it a lot here on the show. I think the depth is a concern. Now, Blake was asked about the edge rushers. Like, we know you've got Uman Mielen and Ross, but especially we know Relaford. What's there after that? And Blake talked a little bit about that on Friday.
I think I've seen a lot of growth out of some guys, really from, when you look at Jordan Ross, when you look at P. Will, they just got here in the spring, how much they've already grown. Dylan Carpenter is a guy that, he's absolutely been outstanding. When you talk about where he came in as a freshman to where he is now, you don't see that much anymore because a lot of times they'll leave before that. But, man, I can't be more complimentary of him and Lamar Brown. And we, Kalaj Cobbins is another guy. So I feel good about our depth. I think we have some really good explosion off the edge as well. And they're all complementary of each other. Some guys have really good strengths in one area compared to another. So we're going to be able to play around with those weapons.
It's interesting, like, when he started talking about Carpenter and Cobbins and obviously Lamar Brown being a young guy, that kind of speaks to the reason I have a little bit of trepidation. Because you're talking about guys that just haven't done it. Some of them have been around, like Dylan Carpenter's entering his 4th year. Kalaj Cobbins entering his 3rd year. Lamar Brown was a 5-star. But you're still talking about guys that haven't done it. Now, there's a very real question that I think a lot of people have rightly asked, so is to say, okay, well, does anybody in college football actually have great depth anymore? And I don't know the answer to that. I kind of look at LSU offensively and go, well, they got great depth like at receiver. They went and got 9 receivers in the portal. All 9 aren't going to play, but, Malik Elzy wasn't a headliner, but he was a great player, at Illinois. Trey Brown comes in from Old Dominion, where he was a really productive player for them. And you've got Trey Wilson, who was a 5-star, and Jackson Harris coming in from Hawaii, who really popped this past season. So, Winnie Watkins. So you have great depth there. Like, can you replicate that everywhere? I think they've done that on the offensive line, where you've got Jaquan Sprinkle, who's a 4th-year guy who was a starter for 2 years at NC Central, where you have brought in great depth. I don't know that they've done that defense. I'm not going to say they don't have it. I'm just saying they don't have proven depth there. Now, the other position that I thought was really interesting. I'm about to play this from my phone. Forgive me for this. But it was Blake Baker talking a little bit about safety.
To be honest, going into fall camp, it was a concern. And not to say we don't have room to grow there, but again, a lot of credit to Jake Olson and Noah Joseph and the players in that room. Jace Thomas has been one of the biggest surprises to me in camp. He's played outstanding. Tamarcus Cooley's picked up where he left off. Same with Ty Benefield. And you look at the growth that Fahim's had. Deshaun Spears, CJ Jim Coyley. I feel really, really good about a lot of those guys, if not all of those guys I just mentioned. And I probably wouldn't have said that, 2 weeks ago or whenever we started camp. Feels like 2 weeks. It might have been a week ago. Who knows at this point? But I think that group is playing, and they're all young. That was one of my biggest concerns. When you talk about the depth pieces, all those Jace, CJ, Deshaun Spears really hasn't played. Fahim is a redshirt for whatever, 2nd-year guy now. So to see those guys kind of step up and these, move the ball game like situations, they've been really good. So I'm happy with where they're at right now.
I think you can kind of rinse and repeat with a lot of these position groups. Like, you can be really excited about Ty Benefield. Tamarcus Cooley played 700 snaps a season ago, although I believe Jace Thomas is going to start. I think snap one against Clemson, Jace Thomas is going to be other safety. At this point, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Jace Thomas. But Fahim Delane and CJ Jim Coyley and Aiden Hall and a lot of those guys, they just haven't played. And I think that's what you continue to see. So for Blake Baker and his coaches and the staff, the onus is on them to get these guys who haven't played elevated quickly to be able to contribute. And obviously, maybe none bigger. Play 10, please. This was Blake Baker talking about defensive line, where you're talking about the freshmen with Richard Anderson and Deuce Geralds and all these young guys on that defensive line.
Yeah, they're as good as I've been around, especially when you talk about a trio of freshmen. We've thrown more install at this group than I ever have in my career. And those guys are repping with the ones and the twos, so they're getting the full install. And there's been growing pains. We're going to have to fight through the freshman wall at some point. I think all three of them are doing a good job fighting it right now. But I am proud of where they're at now and where they've come from. They work at it. They all love football. They got really, really bright futures. But you'll see all three of those guys on the field.
The challenge is that the future for those guys is now, especially Gerald's and Anderson. Tiger scrimmaged on Saturday. Gerald's and Anderson were the ones out there on that scrimmage, and that they continue to be. Like at this point, again, I think you're going to have two true freshmen starting at defensive tackle against Clemson. And you could be pumped about those guys and their future and their ability and all that stuff. I'd be way more excited if those super elite level 18, 19-year-olds were your third, fourth, or fifth defensive lineman instead of your first two. Because that means they've beaten out your veterans who aren't, at this point, outperforming 18 and 19-year-old freshmen. So I think your front line offense, your first 11 defensively are going to be really good. I think depth defensively is a giant question, compounded by Aiden Anding and Gabriel Effort's injuries. So start to get answers soon enough. We're less than 3 weeks away from kickoff with LSU and Clemson. All right, it's after further review. Y'all, we're going to knock out a quick break. Sports Center's coming up. Get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back, man, a busy second hour. Brooks Austin's going to be here in 20 minutes. He was maybe the most popular guest we had on at SEC Football Media Days. He's known as the Film Guy on YouTube. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Well, he did his film breakdown of Sam Leavitt. So we're going to go deep dive film study Sam Leavitt here in about 20 minutes with Brooks Austin. When we come back, though, I'll give you some scrimmage notes from Saturday's LSU scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. Hour 2 of AFR is coming up.
After further review.
Brought to you by First South Farm Credit. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. 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 Maybe one of your goals in life, dreams, is to get all of your family together like in one spot. Like, what if you could buy 100 acres or 20 acres and you and your siblings or your parents, or you have 3, 4, 5 homes all on this one big piece of property, so you're all kind of living there near each other. Like, if you want to buy that land, First South Farm Credit can help you do it. Maybe you want the hunting property, the recreational property. Maybe it's not even in Louisiana. Remember, First South Farm Credit can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. So maybe it's a dude ranch in Montana. First South Farm Credit can help you do it. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. That's the website. That's where you want to start online at FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit.